Hi, great to visit everyone virtually. I'm Bill Riles, the Associate Director and Professor of Practice at Tulane University School of Professional Advancement Information Technology Programs. I will be talking to you today about what businesses and organizations can do in this remote access world we're living in right now.
Thanks, Bill. I'm Ralph Russo. I'm the director of the Tulane School of Professional Advancement Information Technology Department. We're part of Tulane School of Professional Advancement, which has been teaching working adults since 1886. And we welcome working adults, career changers, traditional students. We have on-ground and online courses, and we're committed to excellence in this space. Stacey?
Thanks, guys. I'm Stacey Harb. I'm an instructional designer for Tulane School of Professional Advancement. With everything moving online to work from home during this emergency, we're at greater risk for cybercrime. Do you think we might need to consider something similar to the physical social distancing that we're doing? Like maybe practicing social media distancing to help decrease the cybersecurity threats?
That's a real interesting point, Stacey. I like how you worded practice something similar. Actually, there's a lot of similarities between organic viruses, the human and animal type viruses, and computer viruses related to cybersecurity in many ways. One of the apparent parallels is that both type of viruses, organic and computer, their primary purpose in action is to spread and infect as many hosts as possible. Typically, organic and computer viruses both have no way to, they must attach themselves to some other type carrier. An organic virus will inject this DNA into some living cell. Once the virus is in the cell, it will use the internal and natural functions of the body to carry itself all throughout the host body, using things like blood flow, breathing, air, organs, things like that to infect and transmit again. A computer virus does something very similar. It must be attached to some other type of program, email, document, something like that to transmit. Once it's inside of the device, which is your computer, it will use the internal functions of the computer to do things like cause damage to your data, inject itself into other applications or files inside the computer to cause damage, and to send itself out to communicate across to other computers to spread itself even more.
Good point, Bill. And to continue with this kind of line of thinking, I think that responses to cybersecurity are similar to responses to this health emergency in some ways. For example, you could think of social distancing and removing yourself from others. You could think of segmenting networks to remove and contain data to where it needs to be for security. Sequestering at home could be compared, where you're in a trusted environment, could be compared to trusted networks so that you could feel free to be in a lower risk environment. Frequent hand washing could be compared to patching, whereas frequent hand washing keeps your hands in a continually clean state. Continually patching your software ensures that that software stays free from any vulnerabilities that existed. Another parallel would be hand sanitizers, antiviral soaps, etc. You can compare that to endpoint antivirus and anti-malware. Both are designed on a continuous basis to clean away any viruses or anything designed to hurt your computer or yourself. And lastly, limiting touching of objects that you really need, to me, is comparable to clicking on unknown links and phishing. So by limiting touching things, you lower your risk. By limiting clicking on unknown links, you lower your risk to be the victim of a phishing attack. All of these things are designed to protect you, whether it's physically or virtually, as related to computers.
Yeah, those are really great points, guys. But what can businesses do to support cybersecurity during this fast pivot to distance working?
That's an awesome topic, Stacey. We hear that a lot. I'll cover a few points. These are some basic level things. There's a lot of things that businesses can do, but I'll talk about some of the top level things. First, any measures implemented by the business or at the corporate level should be smooth and painless for all remote workers, because if it's not, oftentimes we're so wrapped up in the security of the business, we implement all these different security measures because that's what they should do, but it's so onerous for the remote staff to use. And sometimes it could take a remote worker 20, 30 minutes to actually access the corporate network. And what's going to happen, the remote worker is going to find a way to do their jobs. They're going to circumvent those security controls that the business puts in place, and which in fact reduces the overall security posture. So those security controls are really good, but if they're too onerous for the user, they will find a way to circumvent them. So be sure that anything you put in place is transparent and smooth and painless for all the remote employees. Next is the policy. This is the real quick one, but often overlooked. All businesses should have an official remote work or work from home type policy given to all employees. It should clearly spell out what should and shouldn't happen when using remote access into the corporate network, when using corporately owned devices in a home network, or when using personal devices in a home network connecting back to corporate owned resources. If possible, you want to get all employees to sign this policy, and it should be enforced, and it should be clearly stated what are the do's and don'ts for any type of remote work. This is a big one. This probably should have been top on the list. Businesses should not sacrifice security for easeability, which means in this rapid time, everybody's got to work from home. It's real common for a business to say, you know what, I'm going to poke a hole in my firewall. I'm going to allow remote desktop services, RDP, into the organization, and everybody can just get to their PCs that way. Very easy to do. It rolls out, but you're severely limiting your security posture. You're lowering your security posture. All businesses are by doing this. So the tip is to not lower anything you have in your firewall, IPS, or any type of security device you have just to make remote access easier for the employees. Don't edit the corporate firewall for RDP. That's probably the most common one. If at all possible, businesses should provide secure devices, typically laptops or tablets, to all remote access employees. And these devices should have VPN software pre-installed. And these devices that are given to the remote staff should be dedicated to business functions only. The remote employees should not be using the corporate-owned devices for personal. You keep the personal and business separate. If that's not an option and businesses allow employees to use their personal devices for remote work into the office, require that all connections are done through a secure VPN for any access to the corporate network. It's highly recommended. We highly recommend to use some type of multi-factor authentication for all remote access connections, including VPN. A multi-factor is some type of, not just a username and password, there's some type of one-time password that gets text to them or some type of other token. Multi-factor with the VPN is highly recommended. Next is cloud storage. Recommend that all businesses implement some type of cloud storage for their data. Allow the remote access employees to access their data in the cloud instead of allowing remote access employees to save their files to their personal hard drive. The concept here is to a clear separation between personal data and the business data. Allow the employees to access the data in the cloud and edit in the cloud, and there's never allowed them to save to anything to their personal network or personal home computer. And the final tip that I have today is require that any device, whether it's a corporate-owned laptop given to the employee or especially a personal laptop by a remote access employee, conforms to a minimum level of security. That means it must have up-to-date virus protection, up-to-date firewall rules, software firewall rules on the device, and probably the most obvious forgotten is it has to be running a current operating system that's fully patched. An obvious example is to not allow any remote connections from a Windows 7 device. Windows 7 is end of life, is no longer supported by Microsoft, so be sure they're running a current operating system that's fully patched and has antivirus software and the Windows or some type of software-based firewall.
How can people who are working from home keep themselves and their work cyber secure?
Yeah, thanks, Stace. That's good questions. So to follow on what Bill said about the corporate position, end users at home should keep their work device and their personal device separate and only do work on their work device and only do personal use on their personal device. If they have to use their personal device, they should ensure they have endpoint protection, such as antivirus or anti-malware, installed and updated. Additionally, if they're using their personal device, they should ensure the device is updated. As Bill said, that device, personal device or business device, should be updated to the latest operating system and fully up to date on patches. Another thing is regulations such as HIPAA and FERPA do apply even though you're working from home. And so folks working at home may be tempted to print out some documents that contain personal information. That's problematic, and those should be shredded if you do it, and you should probably try to avoid that if at all possible. Another thing is folks working from home are probably using their wireless network or wired network, and they have a router or an access point that's driving that. Well, those devices or that device has embedded software on it, and a lot of folks don't know that when those devices are created, that embedded software may have a vulnerability. Those companies do release patches for those devices. A lot of folks don't look for those patches or install those patches to their router. That leaves a vulnerable system. Additionally, router and access points should have strong passwords on them. Never leave the default password, and we see a lot of that on your router. Folks will just do a drive-by and see the name of the network is Netgear, and it has the default password on it, and they'll just access your wireless network. So you need to kind of be very careful about that and update that embedded software. Something we're seeing now is Zoom crashing or other web conferencing software crashing, where folks create a meeting and they create a meeting link to join the meeting, and they distribute it widely. What that's leading to is folks who are not invited to the meeting getting that web link and then joining the meeting either surreptitiously or blatantly. Surreptitiously to steal your intellectual property or your information, or blatantly to then create some type of mischief on your meeting, and we've seen that. To guard against that, you should add a password to your Zoom meetings and distribute that to people you actually want to attend. And you should monitor people who join your meetings, and unknown people, you should seek to identify who they are. And then if that doesn't work and you're the meeting organizer, just kick them out. Folks who are running meetings should learn how to use the tools built into Zoom, for example, that allow you to kick out uninvited folks. So that's important to do. For this particular time, for this particular health emergency, what we're seeing is coronavirus, COVID-19 related cybersecurity concerns. Some of those are fake CDC emails with a link, hoping to launch a phishing attack and have people click on it. Oh, I want more information. I want to view this map, and you click on it and they've got you. Fake government program phishing attempts. The government will give you money, especially since there's an element of truth to that now. You'll get an email saying, click here to get your government money, but what you'll really be doing is falling victim to a phishing attack. Also, fake GoFundMe type phishing attacks or malware attacks. Everybody should give generously during this time. This is the time to dig deep. However, you've got to be very careful about the way you go about doing it. It's great to give, but the work of ensuring that you're visiting an actual live site, or even if you're on the actual GoFundMe site, for example, make sure that what you're giving to is a valid drive to get money run by somebody who will actually get that money where it needs to go. We're also seeing phony COVID-19 treatments, products, masks. Click here, we can get you those N95 masks that you've been desiring by tomorrow. And of course, people feel some fear and get a little panicky, and they'll click. And then you've not only got a COVID-19 concern going on in your life, you've got a cybersecurity concern going on in your life, which no one needs more than one concern right now. So we don't want cybersecurity to be part of that. FEMA has actually put up a coronavirus COVID-19 rumor page to dispel some of those rumors. So you can just kind of go on to FEMA's page and take a look at what's real versus what's not. in these times, you want to be cybersecurity aware, because again, you don't need a second problem, a cybersecurity problem, especially since you're doing almost everything now by computer, right? You're ordering stuff online and you're having work meetings. You don't need that concern. So we hope we've been able to give you folks some short, fast tips, business tips on keeping safe, work from home tips on being safe, and made some parallel between cybersecurity, computer viruses, and COVID-19 coronavirus types tips. Relate those so that they're more understandable. We thank you for joining this session. We hope you got something out of it, and we hope you'll look at Tulane's School of Professional Advancement Information Technology program as a place where you might want to learn some more. Thanks again.